You've probably heard of the Star Wars Rebels sequel series, the rumored upcoming animated series about the search for Ezra Bridger, which is said to release on Disney Plus later this year. Well, I sat down with Kessel Run Transmissions, who first broke this scoop, and I asked them a bunch of questions about what they know about the show, and they cleared up some of the confusion that I think fans have with regards to this rumored show and how some of these other announcements with Star Wars are all going to fit together. It's like a really good interview. You're going to love it. What's up, everybody? It's Josh. Welcome back to the channel. Blast that like button like it's your uncle that you're really not happy to see. And let's get right into this video. And there's no time to waste. You see the length of this video. Grab yourself a snack. Get ready for this awesome interview. I had a lot of fun with this, and there's a lot of cool information shared about the Star Wars Rebels sequel series and just about what's going on with Star Wars in general. So here we go. All right, guys, I'm sitting down with Noah and Cory from Kessel Run Transmissions. Welcome, guys. Thanks for doing this interview.
Thanks for having us, man.
Absolutely. Thank you for, thanks for having us.
Absolutely, man. I was obviously very intrigued with this scoop that you guys had about the Rebels sequel series. This is a big deal for a lot of Star Wars fans. And so first question, just right off the gate, it's like, this is a big deal for you guys. You've said in your videos that you're not professional scoopers, but you've also said that you're like very confident in this particular scoop. Do you want to sort of explain that? Can you explain why you guys are so confident about the show?
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, like we said in the videos, we're definitely not professional scoopers, but some of our sources that we've got to get to know throughout the past couple of years always just kind of told us things here and there, just as really fans, nothing more. And it was always spot on, like all the time. And so eventually, when we got the Rebels news, I think it was in the beginning of January, I called up Noah and I'm like, I think maybe we should get like the fans excited for something, because after Clone Wars, there's really going to be nothing for a period of time. So,
well, I remember when we found out about it, actually, when the source told us, because I think we were in Atlanta for Rise of Skywalker, and we found out about it. We're like, oh my God, we're going to do this. We should like break this news. This is huge.
Yeah.
And so once we got back from Atlanta, after seeing Rise of Skywalker there, we got back and we made that video. And yeah, we just like Cory said, they've told us a lot of stuff that's come to fruition, and we've never been like the guys that are like, we try, we don't scoop. We're not scoopers, like he says. So, we don't do this a lot, but we were like, let's just do it. Let's see, this is fun. It'll get people excited, especially there after the Rise of Skywalker. The fan base was pretty divided. Yeah. And there was a lot of negativity. So we're like, I think this would make people happy if we ran this. So that was our main goal behind running that.
Gotcha. So sorry, go ahead, Cory.
Oh no, yeah. In terms of confidence, it's one of those things where, like, from what we were told in descriptions of what was going on, like if it's not right, I don't, like I said in the video, I won't do any scoops ever again.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw when you said that. I was like, whoo, putting your butt on the line for sure.
Yeah, so I'm 99.99% sure.
Yeah. There's just been so many, even since we've ran it, there's just been a lot of people we've talked to that are scoopers, close friends of ours, people we're not even that close to, that are like, we've heard that too. So there's a lot. And so, like, I agree with Cory. Like, if anything happens but the Rebel sequel, I don't know how that's even possible, but if we won't ever do this again, because that's crazy.
Yeah, and also just because I'm not sure what announcement's going to come out first. There is one more animated series being worked on right now, the same quality as Clone Wars. So I don't know if that's going to be announced first or if Rebels is going to be announced first.
Okay, so to jump off of that, so you think that because a lot of people ran with saying that you guys had said that the Rebel sequel series was going to have Clone Wars-esque animation. Is that true?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what we've heard, that it's the same style. I don't know if that's what they're going to continue to go with, but certainly that's what they were starting on when the show began production. So, they also were speculating whether or not it would be delayed because of COVID. Sure. So we don't know. But from what we heard, like, season 1 was already wrapped. They were just working on post-production for it. So,
and we've said November, which, is still, we haven't heard any different, but But who knows? The world's so crazy right now. Who knows? What will happen with
I
that.
mean, I could see it. I could see it being delayed, but I do think that you're right in saying that it would be a very good positive thing for the Star Wars fan base, and I think that, right. I imagine that it's supposed to link up with the Mandalorian. That I've been sort of on this thing because I put some feelers out too because I just didn't know who you guys were, right? So I put some feelers out, and I had some people tell me like, "Oh yeah, no, these guys know what they're talking about." And one of the things that I had sort of been hearing was about this sort of like Star Wars MCU, how like there's more of a focus now on building connective tissue between the properties and having these things like really overlap. And immediately when I thought of what I think is happening in Mando 2 with these new characters and what the Rebel sequel show will be about, it feels like, man, what a perfect way to set up that animated show. Because guys, I think some of the stuff in Clone Wars and Rebels is some of the best Star Wars.
100%.
And it's a shame because I know there's a lot of adult fans that just kind of like they have that barrier up where they're like, oh, but it's cartoons or whatever. This could be a great way to get some of those fans to like give it a shot. Like,
100%. And I think, you talked about the Star Wars MCU kind of thing. I think that's very. I think you're spot on with that. And also, I think Jon Favreau having more control in Lucasfilm. Obviously, they Favreau has a great relationship with Lucasfilm. They see the success of Mandalorian season 1, and even the Kevin Feige, being a part of the Star Wars universe. We don't know what he's doing,
right.
But I think that they saw what Marvel has been doing, and let's face it, I think the Disney era of Star Wars has been overall pretty good, but there's been some bumps in the road, and I think they were kind of looking to Kevin and John and looking at these people who are involved with the MCU, like we got to get Star Wars on track, to do something great that like just like the MCU has done. So I do think they're going in that direction, and I think this is a great way to start it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let me jump into my next question because this is where like some of the confusion I think is out there for some fans, and hopefully we can clear some of this up. So, Fandom Wire recently ran a story talking about how they've heard that the Ahsoka series, the live action series, will be about the search for Ezra. So the reason I was confused is because you guys are suggesting that will be the plot of the animated show. So how do you explain this? Do you think that Fandom Wire is getting wires crossed? Are they getting stuff wrong, or pun not necessarily intended? But what do you guys think is going on with that?
Well, I mean, all we know. Look, Fandom Wire. I don't know anybody over there. I don't know anything about them really. But and I'm not necessarily saying they're wrong. But the Ahsoka live action series could definitely have aspects of Ezra. Their hunt for Ezra, but we've heard many times that this series, that is the main plot of this series, and that's why it is a Rebel sequel series. I mean, Rebels ends with that. We got to go find Ezra, and it's going right into the series. And I don't know what the Ahsoka anime or the live action show will have. I mean, we haven't heard much about it, but there is a possibility that it has something to do with Ezra, and maybe that's what they're getting, and that's what they're reporting. But the sequel series that we report on is about finding Ezra.
Yeah, and I think also I have a feeling that the sequel series will close out Ahsoka's character. And so I think that it's fitting to do that in animation where she started rather than live action. Like, just personally,
sure.
I think that Ashley should be the one to sort of
the planet and the people he cared
be the
for
last
so much.
version of Ahsoka. So I think the live action Ahsoka series probably will take place.
I realized there was more to it.
I don't know. I would
something
actually. It'd be
else I
kind of
was
cool
meant
if it
to do.
took place between, Clone or Rebels and the sequel series where she has to sort
Ezra's
of,
out there
I guess,
somewhere.
get out of.
And it's
The
What was that
timeline.
planet she was on? Malachor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Malachor, yeah.
Yeah. Something like that would be cool.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting too because like she technically has to stay out of the spotlight of all of the things that she knows is going on, right? Because of the time travel aspects, it's like she can't mess with anything, so she's sort of forced to be sidelined during that time period. But I'm super intrigued by just Ahsoka the White in general. I don't think she's just wearing that stuff and carrying that staff. Like, there's too much symbolism there. Like it's Dave, like his love of Tolkien and all that sort of stuff. It just speaks to me that there's a maturity in her character and something like that. But yeah, just to clarify, so you guys don't know necessarily much about the Ahsoka series, but you're very confident that the animated show is covering the search for Ezra Bridger.
100%, yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, so let's talk a little bit of Ezra Bridger, man. I originally had heard that you guys said that there was no word on Ezra or Thrawn actually showing up in the show. Is that still the case? And do you think that's just because they're going to show up in later seasons?
I think they're going to be in season 1. I just think it's one of those things where our particular source has only seen and heard of a couple of things. Right. And the only things that he is kind of privy to is just the fact that Ahsoka and Sabine, like, he's seen them, and then the plot of the series itself. So beyond that, it's really only what he's seen, and I guarantee you that it wouldn't make sense if Ezra and Thrawn weren't in the first season if that's what it's about.
Yeah, and I just think it'll be the kind of the case of most of this first season will be them looking for him. And then, in the last few episodes, probably maybe even the season finale, we find Ezra. You know what I mean? And Thrawn. And so, just because we haven't seen of him and our source hasn't seen him or heard of him in the show doesn't mean he's not in season 1. And I'd be willing to bet he is in season 1.
Okay, awesome. As we'll get to in a little bit, I'm a huge Ezra Bridger fan, so I'm very excited to hear that. Literally might be my favorite Jedi. I just think his
That's awesome.
Yeah, dude, his story and like his ability with animals, really unique stuff. But so the next thing I want to ask you guys is, there's a lot of interesting leaks surrounding this. Now, look, honestly, like, all I really do is just nerd out super hard on the internet and then try to do a good job nerding out, right? Meaning, like, I find like this leak and I'm like, oh, but this doesn't make sense because of this, and then I'm like, so that leak's no good, or like, this leak's good because this stuff makes sense. And I think it's, I don't know what to believe about these Rebel sequel leaks. There's no information for me to ping stuff off of, right?
Yeah. But
I heard some really cool stuff about possibly things from Legends coming in, including the Rakata. Do you guys know anything about that? Can you speak on that at all?
No, honestly, we don't. We haven't heard anything about anything other than Ahsoka and Sabine, really, and Rex. But the one thing that I will say, like, just speculating, is I think the greatest storyline for, like, Ahsoka's character to go out, right, would be if you have kind of like the Yuuzhan Vong type creatures or something along the lines of that, trying to invade the New Republic, and Ahsoka is the one to stop them, and that's why she's not around after the sequel series. So I have a strong feeling that we're gonna get a ton of Legends connections to the series.
Yeah. And and like we haven't heard anything about that. I think that would be really cool. I think when they bring stuff from Legends, it's really cool. But and also, I really think, and like we kind of touched on earlier, I just like the fact that there's connective tissue at all, because it's been lacking, especially from the the TV show, or really to the movies, from like the novels and the comics and stuff like that. Like the Rise of Kylo Ren comic series, there's a lot of stuff that happened in that, and then you watch the Rise of Skywalker and the sequel trilogy in general, and you just don't feel the connection. There's a lot of stuff that they, you know what I mean? So I hope they start to use that more, and if it's bringing stuff from Legends or bringing stuff that's already in, the current canon universe into the shows and the movies, I think that'd be great.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you. I've often criticized that as it's sort of a two-pronged problem, because it wouldn't be as big of a deal if they didn't like downplay Legends. So like the move they made, which actually, like, if it had succeeded perfectly, would have been a smart move in my opinion, was to downplay Legends to make it so all your new investment in Disney purchases, books, novels, comics enriched your experience. But it really felt like it did enrich your experience, but then like the buck stopped right at the movie theater line, right? Which is so depressing, because that's where you're with all the non as hardcore nerds as you. That's the place you want to show all of your cool nerdy knowledge in, you know what I mean? So it's 100%. I agree. That's a tough that was a tough one. And probably one of the things I'm looking forward to the most of this, the MCU ideas and what I've heard about what they're pulling together is that will be corrected, hopefully.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, Dave likes Legends. I mean, he's technically responsible for bringing Thrawn back and reaching out to Zahn and like having that all go down. So, I mean, look, I guess we can just hope. But next question, guys, I just want to know, I've heard that the cameo from the Mandalorian, we sort of talked about this, that the cameo will tie right into the Rebels sequel. So even though we talked about this already, do you know anything about explicitly how that will go? Have you heard anything about that, or is it just speculation?
Explicitly, no. We don't know exactly kind of how that goes down, but I do think from what we've heard that the reason that these characters, that Ahsoka and Sabine are going to show up in the Mandalorian season 1, and all these characters, but mainly those two, are going to show up in season 1 is to kind of get more of the mainstream audience, that because, the Mandalorian is, huge. And so a lot of people that don't watch the cartoons will watch the Mandalorian, and they're only in one episode. Ahsoka and Sabine are only in one episode of The Mandalorian season 2, and so that episode will probably cross over with their mission. They're probably going to be on their mission at that point, and it'll basically show people, hey, look, these are these two characters, and guess what? Next month in November, or whenever that episode might air in November, or next week, these guys have their own show coming out. So smart. I think that's what they're doing, and I think that'd be great for Lucasfilm marketing. I think I talk about this a lot on our show, but they've done an awful job marketing some of the Disney era movies, Solo in particular. And so I think that if they do something like that, it would be really smart on them, and I would give them a lot of credit.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like crossovers, I think, like Noah said, that'd be the smartest way to go about it is, hey, this is, and kind of like the Darksaber, right? That kind of gets people interested in, oh, well, where's that at? And they go back to watch the Clone Wars.
Right.
So it is very smart to incorporate someone like Ahsoka in it. And then not just that, but, the fact that Rex, we've heard Rex is going to be in it and that he'll be with Ahsoka for one episode. I don't think it's going to be for a long time. I think it's going to be like a quick scene.
Yeah.
And that makes the most sense to sort of just be like, this is the team that's looking for this character. This is the series. You can go watch that too, which hopefully speaks to the quality of the sequel series, probably with the Clone Wars style animation. They're really trying to make sure that it's more streamlined than Rebels was, which I think is smart, since Rebels was so restricted being on Disney XD, and now that it's on Disney Plus, they can do anything. So
yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. I love both those shows. I actually like Rebels more, just because I feel like it's a more complete story. Like Clone Wars, they were kind of finding their footing. There's some wonky stuff, and then it's out of timeline. With some of it, but like Rebels is so solid. But I know the animation's a hang up for people. Like, there's all those memes. You know what I mean? Like people just look. I get it. Like it's a different kind of animation. I'd prefer Clone Wars, but I guess that's just for people to, as an entry point kind of barrier thing.
I'm with you on that. I like the story of Rebels more than Clone Wars. I like the Clone Wars animation more than Rebels, and I think that the Rebels sequel series is going to kind of mix those two, and that's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, it's going to be fire.
I think the thing with the Clone Wars animation too is there was no way that Disney XD could afford that. Like, they would not put that
technically
on there.
I've heard even Lucasfilm technically couldn't afford it when they were making it.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
All right, go. Let's talk about this character. I gotta know about Jason Sandula. Okay, if Hera is gonna be in the second season of Mando and presumably play maybe some kind of role, you guys, I guess, did we talk about that? Is Hera gonna be in the Rebels?
in the Rebel sequel series, we haven't heard anything about Hera, but I feel like it's just kind of you should just naturally assume that Zeb and Chopper and Hera will show up at some point.
Yeah, even if not for very long, or if they're talking to him on the old hologram thing, whatever. But I think you can assume that she'll be in the show for sure.
And as a matter of fact, I would say it's a sure bet, because I think it was last year that Taylor Gray and Steve Bloom, Tia Sarkar, and Vanessa Marshall were going to convention, and they all had to cancel their appearances for a work scheduling conflict.
Yeah.
So that kind of told me that, if all four of them can't make it to that. It's clear they're recording something.
Yeah, and there are reports. They're not as widespread because these ones didn't actually come from a trade, I don't believe. But that Hera, I think this came from Fandom Wire as well, that Hera will be showing up alongside Rex and Ahsoka in the second season of Mando. So not necessarily as reliable as like, THR or Scaretta or whatever. But so it kind of seems like that's going down. But what about Jason Sandula? Like, what's up with the son? He would be around 18 or 19 at this point, I believe, right?
Yeah. Well,
because it depends on how old he is in the epilogue.
I think they said he was like 4 or something like that. So
okay, so he'd only
the series takes, I think he'd only be like 8 or 9.
Yeah, 8 or 9 at the most, 11.
Yeah, so he wouldn't be that much bigger. But I mean, we haven't heard anything about him. But I would certainly also think that he would pop up at some point, just a cameo or just like a.
I mean, I feel like if we see Hera, he'll probably be there as well. Not in a main role or anything, but I think it's safe to say that we'll see him as well.
I'm hoping that character gets a nice life in the canon, and that because I mean, I would assume he'd be force sensitive,
right?
And also a hell of a pilot. You know what I mean? So
absolutely.
It's just like that's a dream team. You know what I mean? Like those two characters were great, and to see their son move forward, I think would be great, because I think that's part of what Star Wars, the whole family aspect and all that. It's pretty cool.
Oh yeah,
I agree.
Let's talk about Ezra. I'm unfortunately I'm kind of surmising that there's not much you guys can tell me about Ezra, but tell me everything about Ezra. What do you guys know? What can we expect with Ezra?
Man, I mean, I got to be honest. There's nothing that we know that you don't. But the thing is like we said a minute ago, Ezra showing up. I'm with you. I love Ezra. I think he's such an amazing character, and seeing him in in episode or season 1 of the Rebels sequel, I think is a safe bet. Obviously, because if the whole season is them looking for him, and then at the end of season 1 they're like, still can't find him, it'd be kind of weird. So I think they're gonna find him, and I don't think at this rate I would not put it past Lucasfilm at all to put him in live action somewhere. I could definitely see that happening. I'd love to see that happen. I'd love to see him and Thrawn in live action.
Oh yeah.
So that Fandom Wire report we talked about earlier, I think, where they say that the live action series would be her looking for Ezra. I think if he does show up there as well, I think that would be great, because I'd love to see him in live action and Thrawn as well. But like I said, we don't know anything that you don't. Unless Corey's heard something.
Corey, you got something? You want to make something up just to get me all pumped?
Make something up. Yeah. No, nothing on Ezra. I mean, I wish there was. Like, the minute that we hear something new, we'll definitely do a video on it, and we'll make sure to write you directly if it's Ezra. Like,
man, let me know. Awesome. Well, I mean, thanks a lot, guys, for doing this, and for just kind of clearing it up, because I know it's an anticipated thing. I know the scoop's a big deal for you guys. I think it's 100% true, and I think that you'll be vindicated and validated once that happened. So I know you guys aren't scoopers, but like, are you gonna kind of keep doing this a little bit like this, like kind of keeping your finger on the pulse and reporting what you
100%.
There's one thing that we've heard that I don't have permission to run yet, but like the minute we have permission to run it,
nice.
We'll see. I want the Rebels thing to come out first.
Sure.
before we do anything else.
Right. Well, that's the thing. Right now, that's kind of what we're kind of sitting on a few things, like, just because until this Rebel series gets announced officially, because anytime we run anything, even with when I reported that Sabine will be in the Mandalorian, there's a lot of people saying, who is this guy? And then they're like, oh, well, they say there's a Rebel sequel, but who knows? We'll see if that turns out to be true. So right now we're just kind of sitting on a few things just to see whenever they're going to announce that, and then when they announce that, we'll be like, told y'all, trust us, here's this.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I always tell people, because like I get a lot of people that just they just want to understand like why I will report what certain people say and not other people. And I always just try to tell people there's like 2 main ingredients that make a good scooper. It's like the quality of their sources, but it's also their judgment. Like, because you will hear a lot of things. I mean, I hear a lot of things, but like, luckily for me, I know most of it's just crazy people on YouTube just messaging me. But you gotta practice good judgment. So it sounds like you guys are doing that, and I wish you a bunch of success, man. And again, thanks for doing this. You want to plug the channel? You guys have, of course, Kessel Run Transmissions. Talk about that for a second.
Yeah, you can subscribe to us on YouTube, Kessel Run Transmissions. We do almost daily videos. We have Kessel Run Radio as our main show every week, where we go over all the news and everything that's come out in that week. And we do other little videos, like we do reactions to the new shows that come out and stuff like that. Cory's actually been doing reactions to the Avatar: The Last Airbender series, which is pretty cool. So we don't only stick to Star Wars. It's mainly Star Wars, but every now and then we'll go, away from that and do something different.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Like Noah said, but you can see what we got going on there. We post a lot of Clone Wars content over the last couple of weeks. Got some interviews up there for some of the cast. So
yeah, we had an Ashley Eckstein interview that was very interesting. That was and it was a really nice interview. And so if you haven't seen that, go to the channel and check that out. Cory did an amazing job.
All right, so that was it. Again, I want to thank those guys for coming on. I thought this interview was great. I hope you found a lot of value here and a lot of answers to your questions. Let me know what you're thinking about all of this stuff in the comment section below. And now let's shout out Chris Koval. Yes, indeed, Dave Filoni is from Pittsburgh, PA. So shout out to you, Chris. And now let's ask another nerd card question before we get out of here. I want to know, what is the name of the system of planets that Kylo Ren and the First Order destroy in The Force Awakens? Answer that question in the comment section below. If you absolutely need more nerded content in your life, click or tap over there to watch some more of our videos, or come on by our live streaming channel where we do live streams every day, Monday through Friday, starting at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Like this video if you liked it, or if you want to take your support to the next level and join the list of amazing people you see listed below, check out our Patreon for some behind-the-scenes content. As I always say, I hope you're having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video.